see. So we have David, The Warning Signs Nobody Seen by Jay Wisdom and stuff. Let's go ahead and watch this video, this long D video. Now, if y'all are not familiar and stuff like that, though, bro, on YouTube, I think everybody on Twitch is very familiar. David's name runs very crazy around this way, bro. We all know what David did at this point in time, but we met him at Anime Expo and shit. And, you know, anybody in the comments will tell you the legend of Goon Hall and shit. And this nigga was at like the whole time was a freak, bro.
A murder that has become one of the most discussed crime cases of recent times is that of David Anthony.
That was him, bro.
Burke, who went by the stage name David. David was at the peak of his career. He dropped a high-charting debut album, he had millions of social media followers, and was significantly wealthy for a man only 20 years old.
Wow.
However, in September of 2025, detectives discovered the body of a 14-year-old girl that had been missing for months, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, in the trunk of his Tesla, decomposed, dismembered, and abandoned. And for months, people debated on whether they believed that this innocent-looking, clean-shaven young man with a melodic voice could do the things he'd been accused of. But now that David has been arrested for murder, and the prosecution have documented their evidence, the likelihood that this was some sort of...
Yo, motherfuckers would literally have all the money in the world, bro, and still motherfucking goddamn be a weirdo. Not only a weirdo, but a motherfucking murderer at that too, bro. And it like EDP murderer
has been significantly reduced. It became evidenced that David had a physical relationship with Celeste while she was still a child. And when they broke up and she allegedly threatened to expose the relationship to ruin his career, the prosecution believed he took matters into his own hands to protect what he'd been.
This mugshot, by the way, is gonna go in one of the most like not iconic is not the word, but like most memed mugshots. Like this shit don't even look real to me anymore, bro.
But when you add the context that he made music constantly that included themes of blood, violence, and a romance that ends in tragedy, it's caused a lot of people to suspect that this outcome was something David always wanted. However, I'm not here to discuss theory and conspiracy. I'm here to clinically answer two main overarching questions. How did David's life engineer him to become someone capable of potentially murdering and dismembering a child? And if he did, then what mental mechanisms allowed him to carry on with life after the fact, knowing the body of the girl he was once intimate with was decomposing in his car?
That's crazy.
It's
bro.
easy
bro
to
living his life. He was on tour, bro. Bro was on tour and shit, singing motherfucking songs and shit like that. And the whole time he killed somebody. That's like that's really some insane shit. That's some psychopathic type shit.
Label him as pure evil and move on. But as a student of psychology, I find it crucial that we understand what happened to him in childhood, what were the warning signs, and figure out the why that surely exists in this story. There's a lot of questions I've seen online that I think I have the ability to answer by the end of this video. Answers that will give you a genuine understanding into the mind and psychology of David Anthony Burke.
I played it for her in the car. She was like, David, this song is too violent. You talking about killing people in your music? No, not my son. And I was like, wait, I might be onto something.
Damn, this is going to be a good video. I can tell this is going to be a good video just from the
Let's start from the beginning. So
David was tapped in with every streamer, was tapped in with every artist. Bro, he was even tapped in with the K-pop community, and the K-pop community hates niggas. You feel me? Like, he was tapped in with everybody, bro. Like, everybody was bro, had a song with Kali Uchis and shit like those. Was on tour with SZA, bro. Just big as hell. Like a big ass artist, and then he gonna do this, bro. It's crazy, bro.
You're a New Yorker.
New York.
Bro, Leve, he had a song with Leve too. Bro, like you said, nigga, like damn, bro. And bro's music was good. You feel me? I'm not gonna deny it. We listened to what David album like a year and a half ago, or whenever he dropped his album, bro. The nigga made good music, bro. It's like, but it's definitely one of those situations. It's unlistenable now, though. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, yes, you can separate artists from music, but when the music is all love songs and about like shit like this, and then there's a case like this, you can't really listen to it in good faith, or like even listen to it and not feel weird about listening to it, bro.
Queens, New York.
What are your parents like? Are they music?
Make you more weary of meeting celebrities? Not necessarily. I think that anybody can be weird. Anybody that you meet can be a fucking weirdo and shit like that. So I mean, not necessarily. It just is very crazy how the first celebrity that I have like met and shit, ended up doing something like this. That's some crazy shit. I'm not gonna lie to you, man.
Musicians?
Not at all. My dad is a litigator for a law firm. My mother was a teacher. She doesn't do it anymore, but she does notary now.
David Anthony Burke was born in Queens, New York, to Colleen and Dawood Burke, two Christian parents that seemingly would give him a tough and controlled upbringing.
Everything we played in the house, music-wise, was just Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, gospel music, like classical stuff, instrumentals only. Like, we didn't listen to any other music. There was no like Lady Gaga and all the popular artists everybody was listening to. We never could listen to that because my parents just wouldn't let us. It was just like straight classical stuff. It was literally nothing. It was all gospel and like classical shit. Mozart, Bach, like all that kind of stuff. Because my parents wanted me to be really smart. They never like talked about college or anything like that, but they always wanted me to be very intellectual, very put together, have an idea what I'm doing, but they never like listened to music like that at all.
Trying to control what your kids listen to and the content they consume isn't necessarily harmful in and of itself. But if a kid is going to school and has no level of cultural relatability, it can cause feelings of being excluded, which in turn affects his socialization. If everyone got to access music and it became a point of discussion he couldn't involve himself in, it might have led to feelings of envy. And instead of David accepting this, he tried to find a way around it.
Did your parents put sort of a cap on what you couldn't listen to in the house?
I was sneaking
it wasn't
around.
like that.
I had this little iPod. I got it with me right now too. I still got these. I used to sneak around with the iPod Touch. I used to sneak around with the iPod Touch and download things off iTunes and stuff like that.
The sneaking around his parents like this is consistent with reactance theory.
Rice's parents aren't victims. Her knew what that nigga say. Her parents aren't victims. Her knew about what he was doing. I don't know. Like, I'm not too deep into this case, but I don't think that his parents knew that his girlfriend was 14 or 13 or whatever, like 12 years old. I don't know if that is a thing or whatever. His brother came out recently saying that he had met Celeste before on tour, but he wasn't aware of, any of the things that was going on or even her age and shit like those. So like, that's what his brother recently came out and said. So I don't know if it's confirmed that his parents knew about like everything that was going on during the situation and everything like that. So I don't know.
Proposed by Jack Brem in 1966. When perceived behavioral freedom is restricted, individuals are motivated to reclaim it. In these situations, the forbidden fruit, which for David would have been music, becomes more desirable, and the individual tries to acquire it by any means, even if it includes secrecy. Now, it's not the behavior itself that's necessarily significant, but the pattern it establishes. That authority is to be managed through concealment rather than confronted directly. This pattern would then reoccur later for his adult life. It didn't help David that his private school life in New York also consisted of bullying and teachers picking on him, so he had an uneasy time both at school and at home.
I hated New York at that point. Like,
why did you
I didn't like my school. I was at a private school, and
was that private? Y'all went private school before? I always wonder how it would be to go to a fucking private school. Like,
saying I don't know. All the teachers had it out for me. My little brother could testify to that too. Dude, they just had it out for me all the time. I don't know what it was. I would just do nothing to nobody, and the teachers would just pick on me and bully me for no reason, bro. I wanted to leave that place so bad.
And he got his wish as they moved to Houston, Texas, and he found it slightly better at his new school. But he was a kid that didn't really seem to find anything that stuck. His parents tried to get him into music, but it wasn't stimulating enough for him at that time.
She put me into piano lessons when I was 7.
Yo, why did you call my DM talking about they said DM's deck for money. What you got going on?
Yeah, can you go ahead and send bro 500 for me?
500? Nigga, what?
Yeah, just put it on my tab, please.
Nigga, there ain't no fucking tab. What do you mean 500?
Just if you could just do that, because nigga, you remember, I'm good for it, bro. Come on, like just this one for me.
Nigga, 500?
Bro, come on, bro. Don't be weird, bro.
I even got 500 bitches on my dick right now.
Yo, gang, I can get 500 fat bitches, nigga, by tonight. If you want that, I can get that for you, bro.
I fit on fat bitches.
I can get that. Nah, he was just like, I only got Cash App, so I'm about to do the send you 30 on PayPal and you send him 30 on Cash App, if you could do that.
Oh, okay. See, I was confused because niggas DM me talking about something. Oh yeah, they said DM sex, and I'm like, DM me for what? I don't got money for this.
Yeah. I'm live on stream, so please don't talk about the type of party that you're at right now, because I know where you're at right now.
What are you talking about, bro?
Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. My bad.
You know what, man? Just know when you come to what is it? New York, I got a raise room for you. I found a good escape room and I found dinner.
Oh, for dinner? Oh, you gonna take me out to dinner and shit? Yo, I'm going to New York this summer.
Oh, where? Hey, slide through, Genki. Wait, I got some news for you. I'm gonna tell everybody right now in chat.
Okay.
Why did you look at it? Yo, Demon got a kid.
He got a kid?
Yeah, Demon got a kid.
Are you being serious? Demon?
I put it on my life. That nigga, the same freak that nigga that tried kissing you, you got a kid.
You dead ass?
I put it on my life.
What the fuck? Yo, let me lock into this video. I'm not gonna I for some reason I don't believe you, but let me talk to you, bro.
I'm so dead ass. If you ever want to, I can always get that nigga for you. That nigga has a genuine child now.
That nigga got a child? Okay, all right, bro.
Alright, bro.
Damn, that nigga got a child. It's if I don't know if y'all know Demon, but he be in the chat. And not Fireboy Demon, but he's be in the chat. He tried to kiss me at DreamCon a couple times. If y'all watch the streams and shit like those, and y'all watch the DreamCon streams, and y'all know who that is. But yeah, but what the fuck? I thought somebody was talking on my shit. All right, let's continue with the video.
And then I quit that after
him at that time.
She put me into piano lessons when I was 7, and then I quit that after a week. She was like, okay, I'm not gonna pay for it if you don't like it. Quit that. She put me in a church choir when I was 8. Quit that. And then I was in middle school band when I was in 7th grade. I played the flute, and I quit that.
But he never developed into a conventionally social child. He describes himself as a people watcher rather than a member of a friend group, sitting apart in cafeteria settings.
Damn! Yo, did everybody have the nugget, bro? Holy shit!
Constructing
don't put that emote in
narratives around classmates that they were unaware of.
At school, before I was homeschooled, like middle school, elementary, I would look at these kids, like at cafeteria. At lunch was like my playground, like my brain's playground. Like there's so many different kids and they're all doing something different. I would just sit there and I'm a people watcher. I would just inspect them and like write about them and stuff like that. And I kind of brought these characters to life that were inspired by my classmates. So every time I would write like a short story, I'd have these different classmates in these stories and they would never know. It's like different names and everything, but they were inspired by my classmates. It was
this preference to observe people and
they have all the photos from this nigga's life, like some of the worst photos of all time, though, bruh. Bro got the motherfucking goddamn EWN motherfucking goddamn haircut, RP Etika.
Was an early marker that he had a natural tendency to see people as subjects for analysis rather than reciprocal social partners. Combined with his bullying in New York, it suggests he felt more inclined to exist on the edge of social bubbles rather than in them, present but not integrated, watching but not connecting. He says he began writing poetry in the 5th grade and pursued anime, gaming, and creative fiction from a young age.
Yeah, ever since I was young, I really just liked anime, gaming, and poetry. That's it. I remember reading my first manga when I was in 5th grade.
What's his first manga? If he says his first manga, though, just know that community is cooked.
Dragon Ball.
Well,
Tokyo Ghoul, and see these fantasy characters with powers and all that. That weren't
My Hero Academia. I would have thought My Hero too. I'm not gonna lie.
And write my own stories about them.
But just in case his parents couldn't give him any more reason to resent them, they took him out of public school, the only place he was getting any sort of socialization, the place where he was letting his imagination run wild, and they instead placed him on an isolated homeschool curriculum.
Transitioning from public school to homeschool is tragic. The first 2 years was tragic.
Damn, so motherfuckers go like get homeschooled and then like motherfuckers start killing people and shit. It sounded like this nigga life was pretty solid for the most part, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, it sounded like his life was pretty good, honestly. Bro, niggas get homeschooled and then start wanting to kill people and shit. I know social interaction, like, you know, of course I'm not a psychologist. That's why we're watching this video. So I know social interaction and shit like those is very important to a growing teen and shit. But damn, that makes you want to start killing people and shit like those. But we gonna listen though.
I was asking to go back to school almost every day. My brother too.
Was the decision to move from public schooling to homeschooling a difficult one?
It was, and it wasn't mine, it was my parents.
So there's 2 different types of homeschooling in America. There's like group homeschooling, where it's parents that don't want their kids to be in public school environments, but they still want them to be in social groups. So they have you have homeschool kids that meet once a week at a specific place, and they play like extracurricular activities like basketball and stuff like that, so they can socialize, and they do the work on paper. And then there's a second homeschooling where it's just strictly on computer. That's what I did.
They didn't let him enroll on the socialized model involving group meetings with peers, but a fully computer-based, home-based program with no structured peer contact whatsoever. From a developmental psychology standpoint, this is the most significant single environmental factor in his profile. Erikson's 8th stage model identifies adolescents, approximately 12 to 18 years old, as the critical period for identity versus role confusion, the developmental task of forming a stable, coherent sense of self through peer interaction, social experimentation, group belonging, and the feedback of others. Removing a child from that process during its peak window doesn't simply slow development, it redirects it, and they don't develop normally. And the main damage that came from that cutoff was socializing. None of his peers stayed in contact with him following the transition, and he was all alone.
It do be like that. Once you move schools, bro, nobody really talks to you like that for the most part. Like, if you ever, like, I feel like sometimes in school settings, people only talk to you because of the convenience of having you at the school, or just the convenience of you being around. Like, and that's just like life sometimes. Like, sometimes you're just not around people, they're just not going to say anything to you. Specifically school, though. If you're not in somebody's school, as soon as you move schools and stuff, unless you and a person really like these, they're never going to speak to you ever again. It's just over, man.
I thought I had a lot of friends in middle school. And then after being homeschooled, nobody's hitting me up. Nobody's asking me, like, where am I at? Why am I not coming to school today? It made me question, like, what is a real friend? And do
I mean, nigga, I guess, bro. I guess. Yo, nigga said, what the fuck? Hey, bro. Renee! Hey, bro. Nigga, I guess, bro. Nigga, I feel like I'm dead. Yo, oh my god, yo, I know this nigga was deep into the X catalog, bro. Oh shit, bro. Like, yeah, I get it. But nigga gonna be like, Blueryai, the homeschooling does this, and this is why he's thinking, bro, come on, bro. This shit is like, that shit corny though, bro. Come on, my nigga. Come on, bro. I know a lot of people who've been homeschooled too, bro. You know, not saying everybody takes things the same way, but they can talk about some. Wait, hold on, go back, bro.
Homeschool. Nobody's hitting me up. Nobody's asking me, like, where am I at? Why am I not coming to school today? It made me question, like, what is a real friend?
Nigga, that's life though, bro.
And do I have any of those as well?
Especially when I was transitioning from public school to homeschooling and nobody like hit me up on Snapchat when I was like streaking everybody. My Snap score was like 250,000, bro.
And nobody hits you back?
Nobody, dude.
What the?
That's what I'm saying. Like nobody, like, who, you not at school? Where'd you go, Dave? Like nobody. Like, dude, did I really have friends? And you start to question things.
Oh,
like,
totally.
About your everyday life. It's like who's really there for you at the end?
I mean, dude, homeschooling really takes a toll on a kid. Like,
isolation.
Yeah, and there's outlets like, I know I made a couple friends now that were homeschooled, but they had like these groups that they would go to, like,
what I will say is, I know homeschooling is very tragic though, bro. Like I understand sometimes why parents feel like they have to take their kids out of school, especially with all the things that are going on in schools now. But bro, I don't think I'd ever try to take my kid away from that level of social interaction. Like if it's to like that extent, like they got to do some other activity where they can hang out with other children and shit like that, because that's just gonna fuck up their shit though.
Weekly and just to socialize, but I didn't have that. Like,
David would start to feel a growing disconnect between himself and his age mates, and an acute awareness of experiences that he was excluded from. I've gone through his TikTok, and this was clearly what hit him hardest. He was emotional seeing homeschool proposals. He has another post titled, What It Felt Like to Be a Homeschool Teen, and I won't play the audio for copyright reasons, but the lyrics go, everybody's falling in love and I'm falling behind, as he visibly shows his frustration at that fact. He missed out on having high school relationships, but had to watch everyone else get to have one through Snapchat. His former peers got to post.
Snapchat definitely created a lot of like jealousy and envy within niggas, bro. Like even to those who went to high school, bro, you always see somebody doing some shit fun while you at home.
Relationship quotes and pictures with their partner, whilst he stayed at home, unable to do anything but watch. As the caption says, homeschool and being on social media 24/7 was not a good mix. In another post, he says his superpower is never being able to express my feelings properly because I was homeschooled and had no social life for 5 years. And on another, he says, I was homeschooled all my life. I never got to experience any school dances. When adolescents are denied normal peer socialization, the need for connection and belonging doesn't disappear. It finds alternative channels. In David's case, that channel was the internet, specifically Fortnite, YouTube, Discord,
the nigga came on
TikTok,
Fortnite. Is
and
that a clout
eventually
chain?
music. During his homeschooled years, David describes Fortnite as his primary social environment. He engaged in squad fields, which is where you're allowed to join games with strangers and talk to them if you have a headset and mic. And he allowed people to vent their personal problems to him.
Especially being homeschooled and not having a social life, right? So I'm on the game, I'm talking to all these random people, and they're talking to me about their life problems, you know, using video games to escape the real world as much as I am, and then living my life vicariously through them and like writing songs about their lives.
Yeah. I would go on Discord and I would go on Fortnite and I would go on like squad fills and I just let people talk to me and just tell me about their lives.
Now, 2018 Fortnite was a good time in life. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro.
Because like most of these people that play video games the same way I do, they're going to it as an escape. So I was just being an open door and an open outlet for like my peers and my friends to kind of just like vent to me about different things in their like personal lives and stuff like that.
And I'm like 15, 14 at this time, so I don't know how to like be a therapist, right? But it's like I'm taking this information and all these different people talking to me about different like problems and situations. I'm like, wow, this is really what humans are like. Like, these are humans.
The fact he says, wow, so this is what humans are like. These are humans. Tells me that this was...
Yo, okay, I don't give a fuck, bro. Stop doing that. Like, shut the fuck up, my nigga. Shut up, nigga. Wow, so this is really what humans are like? These are humans? Are we dead ass serious, my nigga? Are we dead ass serious, bro? Like, I'm all for the homeschooling bad like type shit. But can we be fucking serious for a fucking second, bro? Can we really be serious, bro? Can we be serious for just a second? Like, realistic? Like, come on, bro.
The only way,
like, bro, like, but homeschooling, like, I don't care. Like, I don't. Y'all gotta understand that I really don't care. So before you ever like say that, like, just know that I really just don't care. Nigga talking about some. So this is what humans really are. Anime ass line. What the fuck, nigga? What the nigga? You sound like you talking like Muzon and shit like those, bro. What the fuck? What is he talking about?
David was understanding
science. Thank you for the motherfucking prime, bro.
This is a clinically unusual developmental pathway. Normally, an adolescent's model of human behavior is built through direct, embodied, reciprocal experience, like friendship, conflict,
How about you, bro?
romantic experience, loss, etc. But David built his model of human psychology through a parasocial and semi-anonymous listening role, absorbing other people's problems through a gaming headset. This produces a specific kind of social intelligence, highly observational, empathically competent on an intellectual level, but fundamentally disembodied. He understands humans like a researcher understands subjects, not as a participant understands his peers.
Trying to be deep,
and that's going to be significant when evaluating his later relational behavior. So he was chronically online, seemingly addicted to video games, but being home alone that much allowed him to stumble across much worse vices. Later, in his own Discord server,
I'm not gonna lie, everybody was into video games though. Like, but so would y'all call y'all love for video games an addiction? Shit, maybe, but video games is lit. So, okay, this is not lit though. I don't know what he sees. This that freak. See, like y'all lively goons. Like, y'all gotta be arrested. See, this is weird.
David disclosed a sustained pattern of consuming gore content beginning at approximately 14 years old, following the accidental exposure to a cartel execution video. Gore is real-world violence and injury, fully uncensored.
Trust me, niggas was airdropping live leak videos at lunch consistently, bro. I seen some shit that I definitely shouldn't have seen. But if you see those videos and like, damn, I fuck with that shit. You're very, like, you're weird. I'm not gonna lie. Like, but it's morbid curiosity. You're morbidly obese, my nigga. You're weird, my nigga. You're weird as fuck. I can't lie to you, bro. Dead ass serious.
Including death and murder. And he was discovering that and watching it repeatedly at 14 years old. He describes a progression from initial shock response to habituation, saying, "It got to the point where I don't even cringe when I see it anymore," to then developing a dissociative response, claiming he started laughing at one point, but then escalated to deliberate intentional use. I watch gore to disconnect the part of my brain that feels empathy to the wrong things. We have something called an amygdala, which generates the brain's threat and disgust response to violence. Repeated exposure to graphic stimuli triggers habituation and desensitization. In simpler words, the threshold for what makes the brain want to cringe and look away rises because the stimulus is no longer threatening due to seeing it so much. What David describes in his Discord is consistent with this process in adolescents, whose prefrontal regulatory systems are still maturing and therefore less equipped to contextualize and contain the desensitizing effect. But what distinguishes David's disclosure from typical adolescent experimentation is that last part. He doesn't describe watching gore for entertainment or shock value. He describes it as an emotional engineering exercise, a deliberate attempt to modify his own empathic response. This level of intentionality about emotional desensitization in a 14-year-old is far from typical and represents a significant clinical signal. This would have been a major warning sign.
I know he regrets talking like this on Discord. I mean, yeah, it really don't look good now. It like with all that talk that he's talking about, like it really does not look good with everything that's going on now, bro. Like, what Uncle Ruckus say?
Red flag that David was gaining the ability to care less about human life. During that same isolated period, David developed an elaborate alter ego he called Itami, a Japanese word meaning pain.
I have this alter ego named Itami, which means pain in Japanese, and I'm heavily inspired by like anime and stuff like that. But that character that's in the music videos I make now was actually an idea that I had.
Yo, chill. Chill though, bro. Chill, bro. Yo, David gave anime niggas a bad name. Anime niggas is down by at least 5,000 points off of this, bro.
Years before music even started, when I was writing my first comic book, and it was this detective that would solve his own crime. So he was the good guy by day, and then at night he'd kind of transform into this alter ego and then commit crimes he'd solved the morning of.
But Itami isn't this artistic, creative concept he's come up with. David described it in multiple interviews as a character he intended to develop into his own manga, one who was explicitly him, a detective who committed murders and then investigated them himself.
Again, really bad backstories for what's to happen.
Big part of that manga was an evil version of me, an agent of chaos, and kind of my alter ego. And there was an evil version of myself that would kind of come out at random moments, kind of like Fight Club with Tyler Durden.
I should have asked him for his top 5 favorite anime characters, bro, when I seen him and shit like those. Like, if y'all don't remember, back at Anime Expo, I put David on a lie detector, bro. I put David on a lie detector. And he took the lie detector. He answered a couple questions. I don't remember what I asked him on this lie detector, but I should have asked him. That nigga would have said Griffith, Hisoka, Sukuna, Aizen. Like the nigga would have said shit like those, bro. He would have said Sasuke, Itachi. Like bro would have said shit like those, bro.
Self that will kind of come out at random moments, kind of like
bro said visit him in prison and do the lie detector again. I don't want to be anywhere near this nigga.
Fight Club with Tyler Durden. And he would commit the crimes that I would have to solve as the detective. So like when I was as the detective, I'd be like solving murders that I'm committing myself.
Understand that there's a difference between normal fantasy and what David's doing. We all might fantasize here and there, maybe about obtaining a certain level of wealth or driving a certain car or whatever you guys care about. Escapist fantasy uses fictional scenarios to temporarily relieve stress and provide alternative experience. The psychological concept of fantasy elaboration, however, involves constructing increasingly detailed, immersive internal worlds in which the individual places themselves, not a character, but themselves, and which begin to function as a parallel framework for understanding identity and relationships. David explicitly inserted himself into this narrative. He is not the author of Itami. He's Itami's counterpart. They share an existence. He later described Itami as
the one that is weaving his way into my relationships and ruining them and inducing trauma and things like that.
This language suggests.
So when something happened in your relationship, you could just be like, hey, it wasn't me, it was Itami. It was Itami who did it. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
That the alter ego had become a psychological container for the parts of himself he wished to disown but had not eliminated. David transitioned into music accidentally in late 2021 after copyright strikes on his gaming content prompted his mother to suggest he create original music.
I started making music in like December 2021. I used to be a Fortnite YouTuber, bro. Like, it's so crazy. Only reason I started making music is because my videos got copyrighted, because I was using like Scissors music, Justin Bieber music, all that. And my mom was like, yo, if you're getting copyright strike, you're not making no money, make your own song. So I was like, bro, I could probably do that.
Because of his ability, I know he's able to play and do, so I said, just make your own music. And that was that.
So I kept doing it. And then it kind of just became this thing where the music was getting more popular than the Fortnite videos. My SoundCloud numbers surpassed my Fortnite videos numbers. And it was out of here, bro.
He had no prior musical ambition. What he did have, though, was years of accumulated internal material. The Itami fantasy, the observational psychology built through online listening, the poetry he had written since 5th grade, and a set of emotional themes like isolation, romantic destruction, duality that had no other outlet. Music gave that internal world a public form. It also gave it a socially legitimate one. Dark themes that are wrapped in musical craft don't register to us listeners as warning signs. They register as artistry. The same content that might raise concern if it was in a journal or a private communication is celebrated when it has a compelling melody behind it. David's own statements confirm that his early music was not drawn from lived experience, but from imagination and preparation.
When I write music about heartbreak and the sad type of things, I write it not from experience, because I was a really homebody. I was homeschooled. Like, I didn't have much of a social outlet like that. I write it in like preparation. I feel like.
What do you mean by that? What the fuck this nigga talking about? Preparing for what, my nigga? I feel like when you commit to love. See, again, the prosecutors got too much evidence on this nigga, bro. I know they're not supposed to use like lyrics or and shit like in music, but they did it with Young Thug. They're gonna do it in this case. I'm not gonna lie. The prosecutors got too much to work with here. He's finished. He's cooked, bro.
Like, when you much of a social outlet like that, I write it in like preparation. I feel like when you commit to love, you commit to devastation as well.
I think it's a mixture of like trying to figure it out myself and then looking at other people's experiences. I mean, 'cause I've never experienced like true heartbreak either. So I write all these songs in preparation for it, so I'm not devastated, you know? So I know what to expect.
He describes writing about heartbreak in preparation, having never experienced it. He states directly, "I love over-dramatized themes of romance."
Nigga never experienced heartbreak, so bro started targeting the jits to experience heartbreak from a jit. That was your like that was your go-to and shit.
Because it would never be like this in real life.
I love over-dramatized themes of romance because it would never be like this in real life. So it allows you to like have more room to play around.
The thematic content of his early catalog in 2022, like Bleed Out in March, Dirty
Bro got a band-aid on his forehead. By the way, I don't know what that is. I've seen some people with that aesthetic. What is that? Like, what is that called? Like, the shit looks stupid to me, but like, what is that band-aid forehead aesthetic called? What is that, bro?
The thematic content of his early catalog in 2022, like Bleed Out in March, Dirty Secrets in May, Romantic Homicide in July, centers on romantic destruction, hiding dark secrets, killing a romantic partner, and feeling no remorse. Romantic Homicide's central lyric, which David explains in detail in a Genius interview, is constructed specifically around the active first person, not just
actually the worst choice of lyrics of all fucking like I don't like if there were any lyrics that could foreshadow like this, bro, Diddy would have to say I got 20 oils in my house. I be having parties in my house. Diddy would have had to directly say that in a song or some shit like that in order for a lyric to have this much foreshadowing weight in connotation to what they actually ended up doing in real life, bro. Nah, not this diddler on my screen. Album was good.
But I killed you. He stresses the first person agency.
Which was in the back of my mind. They think that I'm gonna say you died, but I say I killed you. So it's not like the thought of her is gone by itself was something that she did. It was something that I decided to do. And I killed her in the back of my mind.
He also describes the back of my mind as the location of this act, which is precisely where he has told us that his fantasy lives. His mother's reaction to Romantic Homicide is very ironic, but also significant.
I showed it to my mother, and she was like, "That song's too violent and too sad. You're not releasing it. My son is not gonna be talking about killing people in music." And I was like, I'm gonna take that as a challenge, low key. I played it for her in the car, and she was like, "David, this song is too violent. You're talking about killing people in your music? No, not my son." And I was like, wait, I might be onto something, bro.
She identified something real in the content. He overrode her objection anyway and released it. And that song was the one that became his commercial breakthrough. The commercial success of Romantic Homicide is a pivotal moment in the psychology trajectory. David didn't receive any social correction for expressing violent romantic fantasy. He received validation, streams, a record deal with Interscope, and multi-million-dollar career momentum.
Yo, Interscope must be sick as shit whenever their celebrities get into some shit. Motherfucking record labels, when they find out that their motherfucking artists are either EDPs or serial killers. Fuck! Holy shit! Fuck! God damn it! Like, niggas must be mad as shit investing all that money into a nigga just for them to end up being a motherfucking goddamn super EDP, bruh.
I get the first email from
deal with Interscope and multi-million-dollar career momentum.
I get the first email from the labels, I showed him, I'm like, all right, my mom has to hear about this now. I was like, there's no way I can like sweep this under the rug. I'm getting really famous right now. And then I meet with Interscope, who I eventually signed with, and I meet on my team Mogul Vision for management that I signed on management.
Bro, his management must be sick as shit too. Imagine being like an employee and getting paid by this nigga. Then, and you're making good money because bro is making good money. And then one day, all that money is gone because the nigga killed a little girl that he was also dating. This is a freak, bro. I feel so bad for that little girl, bro. He's a like, this is this freaky activity, bro.
And at that point, it was
his manager. So yeah, I heard some shit of like his manager like might low key be like might have been protecting him, but again, I don't know that. But just in terms of his entire team in general, I don't know who knew what or who didn't know what, but regardless though, like it's like damn, that must be tough. Niggas is down they payroll now.
Time to push the button.
From a behavioral reinforcement standpoint, this is near optimal conditioning. The behavior, which was externalizing dark fantasy through art, produced the outcome most desired by someone with his developmental history, which was belonging, recognition, status, and the experience of being known without truly being seen. Because not only did he blow up in music, but that coincided with social media fame like TikTok, where he got tons of engagement. But looking back on that, those fans were engaging with someone who wasn't even their true self and who never took the mask off.
I got me as the artist, David, D4vd, Itami, which is the antagonist. He wears the blindfold. My gaming character is coming soon. He is like the one that's super tech savvy and stuff like that. And then my social media persona, which is also being built out.
My nigga, be normal, bro. What the fuck? What the fuck is LARPing bipolar? Man, nigga, the signs definitely was there, bro. Yo, and I mean, but I guess don't take my word for it and shit like those, bro. When I was in middle and high school, bro, there is this manga that I was making and shit like those because I was really into art and shit. And sometimes I would have like thoughts about the world that I created and shit like those, bro. I gave up on that word a long time ago and shit. But like, nigga, I as a grown ass man, bro, I ain't never been on this tight time. And nigga talking about some, yeah, my alter ego is, I'm Rai, but my alter ego is Ray. He's an antagonist that is from the city of Atlantis who protects the city with a golden trident. And then my gaming persona is like, nigga, what the fuck are we doing?
As we speak, and that's the 4.
He constructed an entire identity architecture around himself with those 4 defined personas: David the artist, Itami the antagonist, a gaming persona, and a social media persona, none of which were David Anthony Burke. The actual self was not among them. What researchers describe as identity diffusion, where the boundary between constructed persona and authentic self becomes genuinely unclear.
Yo, nigga, that is insane. Nigga said I got a gaming persona.
Appears to be happening here. The masks were not overlaid on a stable self. They may have become the primary mode of self-experience. So David from early on learned how to switch between characters. In private, he could be this antisocial kid with dark fantasies. In interviews, he could sound smart and sophisticated. And on TikTok, he could do his best to be relatable and goofy to his audience. That ability to switch became something that we now potentially know might have helped him deal with the consequences of his future
Bro, think he Mike from Total Drama Island, bro.
actions. According to prosecution documents, David and Celeste Rivas Hernandez first made contact online in January 2022 when she was 11 years old and he was 16. This reportedly happened on Fortnite, which would be consistent with how David...
Yo, it's like you can never hear that. It don't matter how many times you hear that. You can never hear that and just be cool, bro. Like that shit is insane, bro. He kept it going, bro. This entire time, throughout his entire career, he was on this type of timing, bro. The entire time, bro.
David got his social interaction when he was homeschooled. The prosecution
Y'all can't tell me nobody around him didn't know.
Documents confirm a physical relationship began in November 2023 when Celeste was 13 and David was 18. So they knew each other online for almost 2 years before ever becoming intimate. This is purely my opinion based on available context and evidence, but I don't believe David sought out Celeste in a predatory form, looking for a minor specifically because that's what physically attracted him. The fact he was only 16 at the time and was being homeschooled makes it completely plausible that the relationship began as some kind of intense online companionship, where he was just happy to talk to someone. with age not being one of his concerns. I believe they started off as friends who confided in each other, made jokes, and wasn't started off in any inappropriate nature. What changed it is the question. The evidence that the prosecution are bringing forward documents a pattern that David was grooming Celeste in stages that got gradually more intense. The first thing he did was make her feel special. He released a romantic homicide music video on Celeste's birthday. He then recorded a song titled Celeste in December 2023.
I didn't know he released it on her birthday. Maybe that everybody knew that. I didn't know that part. Yeah, this nigga's cooked. I'm not gonna lie, this shit really don't look good. He's going to need Saul Goodman himself to get him out of this. And maybe if Saul Goodman is there, he gets out like in 30 years. Maybe if Saul Goodman's on the case. But like, otherwise, they giving him DP, bro. And he made a whole song on her, bro. It's crazy.
Music video on Celeste's birthday. He then recorded a song titled Celeste in December 2023, expressing deep personal obsession, and he continually maintained her presence in his Discord server. The song Celeste references the girl with my name tattooed on her chest, a detail that subsequently materialized in reality when Celeste had his name tattooed on her finger and shared it in the Discord server in July 2024. He also never...
Now, y'all remember when these stories were coming out? Because there was that time point and period of time where people were like, nah, he not going to do this shit. Oh, maybe he did it. Nah, he ain't do it. Nah, maybe somebody just took his car and shit like that, though, bro. Nah, not David. Yo, if David caught a body, I'm gay. Like, people were saying stuff like that and shit like those. But then it was those periods of the weeks after where the stories came out where it's like, oh, okay, this girl has a tattoo. The girl knew David. The girl has a tattoo of David. The girl, David made a song on it. And then at this point in time, specifically this point in time, there was no denying that this nigga was like on some shit. You feel me? Like, there was literally no denying it at this point in time, right? People said this. You are people. What are you talking about?
Publicly posted her on social media, but would post pictures where she's present but not identifiable.
Oh, he's innocent till the Discord shit came out. Bro, I'm not gonna lie. I genuinely couldn't believe it. I remember when the story came out about somebody taking his Tesla or the Tesla being found with some dead body, I was like, nah, no, bro, no way though, bro. But I was like, nah, bro, I don't think he would do that shit. I don't think he would do that shit though, bro. But you never really know who niggas is though, bro. And that's another thing that I had said back in the VOD though. On some EWU shit, bro. The people who always look the most regular is always doing the craziest shit, bro. But again, I really need a EW criminal psychology video to figure out, like, once this shit is all done and he's like in jail forever, I need to find out why somebody with this level of claim and fame would do something like this. I know this is what they're trying to explain now on a psychological, like him being homeschooled, leading into him wanting companionship, into him wanting, but it's like still, bro. I still need to know more, bro. I still need to know more, though, bro. It's the ones you always least expect.
Or captioning posts referencing having a girlfriend to show his fans he was in a relationship, which gave his romantic music credibility. Another thing he did was use financial control. Prosecution documents confirmed that after Celeste's parents removed her phone from her in February 2024, David drove to Lake Elsinore, where she lives, and paid a classmate $1,000 to provide Celeste with a new phone he had purchased so that they could maintain contact.
That was crazy.
This was done after law enforcement had directly informed him that she was a 13-year-old runaway. Despite
and niggas seen this grown ass man talking about some give her his phone and shit, and her classmates known too, bro. Like niggas knew, people knew, chat.
Her parents and law enforcement trying to stop David from connecting with her, he chose to go around them anyway. He then isolated her from her family and support system. There's debate on whether Celeste had the best home life in the first place, but David definitely capitalized on that and took advantage of her vulnerability. Throughout 2024, the prosecution documents confirmed that Celeste spent significant time at David's Hollywood Hills residence, accompanied him to Las Vegas, London, and Texas, and was repeatedly reported missing by her family. This pattern of running away is consistent with successful grooming. The victim's primary attachment has been displaced towards the perpetrator. David had become the new safe place in her eyes, which is really sad to think about in hindsight. Another thing David desired was surveillance and control. It could be for humor purposes, so take it as context rather than fact. But in general,
and again, like this dude at the level that he was at could have had any girl that he wanted to, realistically, bro. But like, niggas is freaky, niggas is weird, and niggas is losers, bro.
January 2024, after they'd started a physical relationship, he posted TikTok with the text on the screen implying a partner telling him that she will swallow an AirTag so he gets to know her every move. It seems playful on the surface, but with the context we have, he's describing a desire for a constant location surveillance over a minor. On January 11th, 2024, David did a Twitch stream, but he had Celeste in full view of his audience, right there in plain sight. She was wearing a hoodie and glasses to perhaps conceal suggestions at her age, and they seemed to be doing a cooking stream.
Season it? It's already seasoned, bro. It's Alfredo.
I'm yet to find the full stream, but something gets said beforehand, and the comments start saying things like, "Pray for his career, chat. You're done for, bro. Nah, you going on the Epstein list. There's no escaping this, bro. Caught you in 4K. All messages that allude to..."
What did they know? What did they know, chat? How did they know, chat? They knew. What did they see? What did they see, chat? Well, how did they know, bro? What did they see, bro? What did they see, bro?
The chat realizing that David is allegedly. David reads these comments out aloud and questions Celeste. "Are we done?" To which Celeste says, "We need to delete this."
Pray for his career, chat. Are we done? Are we?
We need to delete this.
Are we? Maz, can we delete all VODs? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too?
Why this nigga sound so zesty right here though? Oh god, yo, cause it's not the first time I heard this clip. Why does nigga sound like so like Atlantified right here, bruh?
Maz, can we delete all VODs? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too? Can we delete everything? You done for, bro? Y'all are not done? Now you going to Epstein? Yo, wait.
You see the instant panic in David because he's tried to keep this relationship a secret, and this was the closest he...
Hey yo, who's the girl? You are a fed.
...gotten to being exposed. The chat continues with David and Celeste Island trip and David Epstein flight list. But something else gets said.
Wow.
And David puts his hand firmly on Celeste's shoulder and says, "I media trained you." To which she replies, "No, you didn't."
Media trained?
I personally don't.
Yo, I media trained you.
No, you didn't.
He says that's controversial, and she questions him with something that almost exposed his secret to the world.
That's controversial.
It's controversial of kids.
That nigga heart must have been his fucking ass, bro. That nigga heart must have been his fucking ass, bro.
Really good.
Okay,
it's been a good one. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Mwah. Oh my. Delete everything. Delete everything. Everything goes.
She seemingly regrets saying it straight away, and David ends the stream. Of course, I have to preface...
Bro, he must have been sick. He must have been really like mad at her after the fact, like and shit like those. Like, knowing what we know now, bro, he must have been that type. Like, especially like with like he's a real weirdo. He must have been really upset after this shit.
That streaming clips get taken out of context all the time. What we don't know is what was actually said beforehand, and the chat could have been referencing something completely different. But what we do know is that David was making attempts to media train Celeste, in his own words. Due to him understanding what he was doing was wrong, this is an attempt at power control, because by giving her instructions on how to act, she's molded to become more obedient. It's crazy that this Twitch stream is almost a mirror of what the prosecution are alleging David did to Celeste over a year later.
Damn,
when he was on the verge of getting exposed, he tells his mods to delete everything, to physically discard of the evidence so that no one can find out the truth. He did what he needed to maintain control over the narrative, and panics when there's a risk of the mask slipping. Prosecution documents state that Celeste and David broke up in November 2024, though text messages confirm a continued contact through to at least March 2025. The documented text exchanges describe Celeste growing distress at the nature of their relationship. She messaged, according to prosecution filings, "All we do is have sex and just hang out, man. I want more than that for myself." If you notice, the prosecution frames this as evidence of David's manipulation. This is because of the context that is supposedly surrounding this message. The prosecution's argument is that...
See, David, but the thing is, bro, in court, you can't use that. Is your lawyers going to be like, it wasn't David, it was, what's that nigga name? His alter ego, Itachi, Malachi, whatever the fuck your motherfucking alter ego is, nigga, you can't use those to excuse yourself, bro.
That David had deliberately led her to believe that they had some sort of future together. That she was his girlfriend, his partner, someone he was building something with, specifically in order to maintain physical access to her and her silence. She was emotionally invested in a future I don't think he actually planned to give her. Now, before we proceed, I have to reiterate because I know how soft the YouTube guidelines are when it comes to active cases and demonetization, but David is only alleged to have murdered Celeste Rivas Hernandez and has pleaded not guilty.
Nigga, Akechi had morals though. Well, some morals. Akechi wouldn't do what David did, bro. Yeah, he wouldn't do what David did, bro.
So take what I say next as opinion, as rumors, as theory, but not fact. Because his behavior over 2025, if not guilty of the murder, just looks like normal behavior. But
Akechi's just a mass murderer, bro. He wouldn't do this specific type shit.
That's also the problem if he is guilty. Because only a psychopath could do what's been done to Celeste and go about life as normal. On the night of April 22nd, 2025, prosecution documents describe a lengthy argument conducted over text messages. Celeste had become aware of David's relationships with other women. Although they supposedly weren't in a relationship anymore, this triggered Celeste, and she threatened to expose their relationship publicly and destroy his music career. His debut studio album, Withered, was scheduled for release April 25th, 2025, so 3 days later. On top of that, he had a multi-million-dollar career, active endorsements, and a world tour booked.
Now, hey David, are you either going to A, like, not do something that is already going to ruin your life when you're already ruining your life because you're dealing with a minor, and making it worse at this point would just be making it worse just to make it worse? Will you rather not do that, or would you rather kill the girl who says that she's going to expose you? Well, David being David is going to go ahead and murder the girl who is a minor, who he was dating. And he's going to murder her and then basically think that everything is going to go away. And then think he could just release music and that it would be good. David, you should have just taken the EDP charge. I'm not going to lie, bro. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, bro. I'm going to be honest, bro. You should have just taken the EDP charge, bro. You would be out in like 30, 20. Well, to be honest, some niggas be getting off on 15. Like, you should have just taken the EDP charge, bro. I'm going to be honest with you, though, bro.
The prosecution alleges that at approximately 8:40 p.m. on April 23rd, 2025, David ordered an Uber to transport Celeste from her Lake Elsinore home to his Hollywood Hills residence. She arrived at approximately just after 10 p.m.
Like, bro, you can't even be like, she tried to ruin my life. Nigga, you just ruined your life even more. And her life. So now what, bro? And to be honest, I'm gonna be honest, this might sound crazy. David might have still had a career like 15 years later, potentially, if he got caught and shit. First of all, people who get arrested on EDP charges, especially famous people, usually don't go down for that long. Sadly, right? Look at Diddy. Diddy got like 5 years and shit. Well, I guess Diddy's more like not EDP-ish to an extent, more like, you know, rapist type shit. But like, people in the music industry who do EDP shit don't even go for that long. I'm not gonna lie to you, if at all. So realistically, if David gets exposed for being an EDP and shit, his career is like ruined and shit. But niggas is still going to be cranking David and shit. Niggas is still going to be cranking David. Niggas will be like, whoa, I can separate the art from the artist, so I'm gonna still listen to it. And shit. Like, those niggas would still be listening to David. But now that you have done this, and by niggas, I don't mean like everybody. I'm just saying a lot more people would still be listening to him at that point in time, though, right? Nigga, Rye said that David would have had R. Kelly motion. I'm not saying that it would have been like that, but niggas still cranking R. Kelly, bro. I went into a motherfucking pizza bar today. Niggas motherfucking goddamn playing every mix to ignition, right? Franks out the kitchen. So I'm saying it to say that unfortunately in our world, when artists commit crimes, some people don't care and shit. Like, when it comes to like crimes like this, people just genuinely don't care. Even now, with everything that it is, I still see people defending David, talking about well, you don't know if he did it, da-da-da-da. People are still defending this nigga, bro, and shit like that. So if he had just been an EDP, which is still crazy, you know, very, very, very bad. But if he's been an EDP and shit, bro, there's a chance that he still could have had a career after that, bro. There's a couple rappers that's an EDP, bro. Couple rappers out now that's EDPs. I cannot lie to you, though, bro.
The prosecution alleges that shortly after her arrival, David stabbed her multiple times and stood by while she bled out, making no attempt to call emergency services.
Bro.
At approximately Elsinore home to his Hollywood Hills residence. She arrived at approximately just after 10 p.m. The prosecution alleges that shortly after her arrival, David stabbed her multiple times and stood by while she bled out, making no attempt to call emergency services. At approximately 11:30 p.m., he drove north on the 101 freeway to Santa Barbara County, texting and calling Celeste's phone as he drove, a pattern the prosecution characterizes as a deliberate attempt at a cover story. He returned home early on April 24th, went to a radio interview for the album, and attended the album release party later that evening. The prosecution then documents evidence of
bro killed that little girl and then dropped his album. Like, actual fucking psychopath. Has no, even, not even a type of conscience, bro. Like, actually, bro, killing somebody and dropping an album is crazy, bro.
David's poor attempt
like, it's still crazy. Yo, hold on, let's let it play out.
And dismembering her body, which he then left in the front trunk of his Tesla.
Burke placed her body in the inflatable pool he'd ordered to prevent her blood from spilling onto his garage floor and used a chainsaw to cut off her limbs.
Surveillance footage confirms David drove his Tesla for the last time on July 29th, 2025, before parking it on Bluebird Avenue in Hollywood Hills and departing for his concert tour. And this is the alleged story we have so far on how David potentially murdered Celeste and then continued with life like nothing happened.
Bro, everyone around this little girl failed her, bro. That sucks, bro. Including the people who are on David's team that knew, bro. Because somebody had to know. Somebody, like, y'all can't tell me that David is the only person that like knew. Somebody else had to have known, bro. That's crazy. And then, Chad, another, like, I know always I've said this before, but then when I seen this nigga at Anime Expo in July, when I met him at Anime Expo on like early July and shit, he had already killed that girl, bro. Nigga over here in anime wigs and shit like those, acting like nothing happened. Acting like nothing happened, bro. And when I was watching, bro, it's surrounded by all these people and shit. Everybody's so giddy to talk to him and everything like those, bro. And this whole this whole time he on some shit like those. That's crazy, bro. You met a nigga who killed somebody. There was a clip where someone's talking about how his house smells and the manager covers for it. I think I heard about that though, bro. That's crazy.
The following analysis I'll give is based on if the evidence presented by the prosecution is factual and proven, and is just my opinion. But the first thing that I believe to be true is that David demonstrates a dark triad personality. The dark triad is a mix of 3 personality constructs: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, identified in psychological literature as co-occurring and collectively associated with manipulative, exploitative, and callous interpersonal behavior. And I believe all 3 appear relevant to David's documented behavioral profile. Narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, is characterized by grandiosity, a persistent need for admiration, entitlement, and a lack of genuine empathy. Subclinical narcissistic traits.
Yeah, the nigga was definitely on some narcissistic shit though, bro. Like, especially when you're at that point in your time in your life where everybody, like, you're famous too, so everybody like is trying to rock with you. You're surrounded by everybody. All the women want you, bro. All the men trying to be around you, bro. You get all these record deals. You're getting all this money and shit like those, bro. And you have this anime persona shit, so you already are thinking that you're some kind of like, not like God, but godlike or omnipotent type figure and shit. And I remember I told y'all that when I was at Anime Expo, and I would like glance over at the nigga phone and he would look at his TikTok mentions, like not even once, like a couple times. Nigga, I don't look at my TikTok mentions like that, like ever and shit. You know what I mean? But like he was looking at that shit multiple times, like just in that period of time that I was walking with him. In that period of time, I see him looking at his mentions and shit. So I'm telling y'all, either 1 is based in some narcissism shit, or 2, he was scared because he was waiting for the day that somebody caught him, like based on him being either EDP or him killing that girl. So he was probably living in fear and shit. That's what I think. Bro, I don't know, bro. I don't know. Shit's crazy, bro.
Which don't meet the full diagnostic threshold.
I know he's paranoid. I think he was paranoid, bro. I think he was genuinely paranoid, bro. I've never seen a nigga check his mentions that much while being out in that type of scenario, bro. Like, he just checking it. And this is supposed to be like a celebrity, right? He's a famous artist. Nigga scrolling, looking. So, bro was probably paranoid, honestly.
Meaningful are observable in David's behavior across multiple domains. The construction of an elaborate multi-persona identity architecture, the use of a child as a participant in his artistic and fantasy world, the apparent expectation that normal rules, including the laws, didn't apply to him, and the documented use of financial resources to purchase compliance from multiple parties, like Celeste's classmates and potentially others, rather than just accepting social or legal constraints. He continued pursuit of Celeste after direct law enforcement contact, despite being explicitly told that she was a 13-year-old runaway, which just demonstrates how important he thought he was. Narcissistic individuals frequently exhibit a belief that ordinary legal and social constraints are obstacles that apply to others, but not them. Machiavellianism refers to a strategic, manipulative orientation towards interpersonal relationships. In simpler terms, using others as instruments towards personal goals, maintaining multiple social presentations simultaneously, and planning several steps ahead in your devious plans. David's documented behavior across the 2022 to 2025 period is consistent with this profile. The staged disclosure of his relationship that was sufficient to lend his music credibility, but not enough to expose it, the financial management of witnesses, the claimed media training of a minor to manage his public perception, and the fake name he used on the Amazon purchases when trying to cover his murder trail. Psychopathy is characterized by reduced fear response, diminished empathy, shallow affect, and the capacity to engage in harmful behavior without the guilt and anxiety that normally regulates such behavior in normal individuals. What's actually happening in the brain is reduced amygdala reactivity, meaning the internal alarm system that makes violence psychologically hard to deal with is significantly reduced.
Nigga, they probably doing in college psychology classes, bro. They probably covering this case because this shit is really deep, bro.
David's deliberate desensitization program beginning at 14, his awareness of this process, saying, "I watch God to desensitize the part of my brain that feels empathy to the wrong things," and his ability, if the allegations are accurate, to attend a radio interview and album release party within hours of the alleged murder, are all consistent with elevated psychopathic traits. The prosecution's timeline describes someone who moved through the alleged crime and its immediate aftermath in a goal-directed,
bro, literally
organized
2 days after killing this girl, bro, talking about my album's out, was like, holy shit, this is crazy.
manner, without visible emotional disruption to his public functioning. He saw the murder and the cleanup as a task to get out the way, rather than a major disturbance to his life. It's important to note that psychopathy exists on a continuum. High psychopathic traits do not predict violence on their own. They represent a reduction in the internal constraints that make violence improbable for most people. You can definitely have psychopathic traits and go through life without killing anyone, but if you had to, or if you believed you had to, it wouldn't be hard for you to mentally process.
Wow.
The best way I see fit to analyzing the rest of his psychology is by answering some common questions surrounding the case. The first is, was David born with psychopathic traits, or did the environment shape him like this? The evidence doesn't support a simple nature or nurture answer, and the research literature on psychopathy doesn't even need one. Studies on antisocial personality disorder, which is the more official diagnosis with traits similar to psychopathy, have found that genetic predisposition is a real factor, but it's not determinative, meaning genes do play some part, but it needs more than that. What the developmental history suggests is that David likely had some dispositional features like his elevated sensation seeking, a reduced fear response, a natural tendency towards social observation over social participation that interacted with a profoundly adverse developmental environment. The isolation he experienced in homeschooling removed the social components that normally regulate and redirect dark impulses.
Damn, really, bro? Niggas, that's I guess that's crazy to me though, bro. Like those years of homeschooling really created this type of mindset that led into this. At least this is all in theory, right? This is all just what is believed and shit, you know, based on like his history and shit like that.
In adolescence, such as peer feedback, mentorship, romantic experience within age-appropriate contexts, and the reality testing that comes from genuine reciprocal relationships. Basically, when you're in school.
Damn, it's just, I know everybody's different, bro, but I know like some niggas who don't got none of this, bro, didn't have the chance to get none of this, bro. And didn't have the level of success that David had, you know? But I guess one can also say that if those people that I know who have not experienced mentorship, romantic experience, or peer feedback, if they had the level of success that David did and felt that level of power, if they could have turned into somebody like him as well, you know, I guess that goes into question.
And the reality testing that comes from genuine reciprocal relationships. Basically, when you're in school and you're weird, people are going to tell you you're weird and they're not going to be friends with you. And that's going to cause you to not be weird. The gore consumption, the fantasy elaboration, and the emotional desensitization program didn't occur despite his isolation. They occurred, most likely, because of it. any genetic psychopathy predisposition might have stayed more muted in a more socially connected environment. But David was given 5 years of uninterrupted space in which to develop.
So homeschooling without putting them in situations to socialize, like a recreational sport or something of the sort, could cause something like this. His parents really should have like put him in some shit, bro. Like again, with homeschooling, I get it from the point, like in America, there's a lot of like shootings and shit. Like those schools like a lot more dangerous than it used to be and shit. So a lot of parents are taking their child out of school, but they gotta have some kind of social belonging or something, bro.
Without correction. The next question is, if many children experience homeschooling, many children watch gore, and many children watch anime, and they don't become violent, then why was David different?
I think this is where the power starts to come in, you know, when niggas start to get power and money and fame and shit.
The answer is not any single factor, but the specific combination and timing of factors, and the absence of mitigating ones. 3 elements distinguish David's profile from the general population of adolescents who share some of his experiences. First, the duration and completeness of his social isolation was extreme. Not partial homeschooling with peer contact, but 5 years of near total isolation during the precise developmental window where identity and empathy are formed through reciprocal relationship. Fair enough if they let him go to some sports clubs and he got to meet people weekly, but he was completely alone. Second, his response to that isolation was not passive, but active, as he built an increasingly elaborate internal fantasy world in which violent romantic narratives were central, and he deliberately used that period to pursue desensitization by watching gore videos. Third, and perhaps most critically, nothing corrected the trajectory. There were no peer relationships to provide reality feedback. There were no teachers or mentors who intervened. When his dark material reached the public, it was celebrated. When law enforcement contacted him directly about a 13-year-old runaway, he found a way around their intervention. The system of natural corrections that normally checks and redirects deviant development failed at every point. Another question is, with his fantasies and music content, did David always have a lust for murder, or did circumstance just cause him to kill in that moment? Neither characterization is fully accurate, despite how wild our minds like to run with
that mugshot, bro, is so fucking like disturbing. Mind you, we didn't see this nigga for months after this whole thing happened, bro. Since like September, nobody's even seen bro's face. He was on tour, he canceled his tour and everything. Nobody's seen his face. So for all these months to pass and this to be the image, bro, this shit is like haunting.
Evidence doesn't support a long-term conscious plan to murder Celeste. There's no indication he groomed her with killing in mind from the outset. What the evidence does support is a sustained internal world in which romantic relationships and fatal violence were thematically intertwined, in which he had deliberately engineered his own emotional desensitization to that violence, and in which he had repeatedly rehearsed through his music video.
The shirts with the blood on it should have also been a telltale sign too, bro. I know motherfuckers think it's just like designer type shit or just the design, but like low-key, the themes of blood and shit like that should have been a sign. I'm not gonna lie. Anybody who's that infatuated with a lot of blood and shit, like, usually got something going on. Not like 100% of the time, just most of the time.
Through lyrics, fantasy, and alter ego construction, the psychological experience of killing a partner and feeling nothing. Whether or not he consciously intended to kill Celeste, he had spent years building the psychological infrastructure that made it executable. The prosecution's alleged motive that he was silencing a threat to his career is entirely plausible as a proximate trigger. But the proximate trigger...
Yeah, art doesn't mean that you're a killer, but definitely, especially now in retrospect, like if I put out a bunch of merch where it has a bunch of blood designs on it, and then in all my streams, I'm talking about blood, and we're doing blood streams and shit, and then all my content that I post is surrounded about blood and shit. Like, again, it don't make you a killer, but nigga, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. Y'all better watch me a little bit. I'm not gonna cap to you, bro. I'll definitely watch a nigga who is into blood a little bit more than a motherfucker who's just like on some regular shit.
Ignited something that had been laid down over a long period of time. A person without that psychological infrastructure, confronted with the same threat, would not have had the same response. They might have offered to talk about things, maybe to pay her off, or something, but not murder. A very common question is, why did he leave the body in his Tesla and then just go on tour?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Was it narcissistic overconfidence?
What is that?
Or something else? There's the theory that he wanted the body to be found so that everyone could appreciate the art of his...
I don't believe that, personally. I'm not gonna lie, I don't believe that.
Crime, and whilst psychologically intriguing, it doesn't hold up well against the broader evidence. The prosecution documents a person who
he tried to really like get rid of the evidence. Like the whole purpose of him doing that in the first place was so he didn't get exposed. So I think he was really trying to make sure that shit didn't come out.
False name to purchase disposable equipment, drove to Santa Barbara County to destroy evidence the night of the alleged murder, made deliberate false statements to law enforcement, and continued attempting to incinerate evidence months later, as he bought a burn cage in July that he didn't end up using. This is not the behavior of someone wanting the body to be discovered. It's the behavior of someone who believed he was managing the situation competently. The most clinically consistent explanation is indeed narcissistic overconfidence, a well-documented feature of individuals who combine high narcissistic and psychopathic traits. The belief isn't simply I am above the law in an abstract sense. It's the belief that the individual's intelligence, status, and resources are sufficient to manage any problem. Leaving the car on the street rather than disposing of it properly is a catastrophic risk assessment failure, but it's consistent with the same cognitive pattern that led him to go to his radio interview the morning after the alleged murder. The operational logic appears to have been, the car is not at my address, it's a few hundred feet.
Bro, they said that she was in the front, like the front trunk and shit like that. That's what they said she was, bro. That's so sad. Prayers out to you know, everybody who cares about her family and everything. I know there's some disposition about her family and everything, but it's really sad what happened to this little girl. Bro, the front trunk or the frunk in a Tesla, I don't know what model he had, but there's not a lot of space in that shit, bro. There's really, like, that shit is really not spacious. So for him to put her in the front trunk of a Tesla and shit, it looked like he got like one of those thicker models and shit, but like, in order for him to do that, that shit was like, I don't know why. Like, I don't know. That nigga's really a psychopath, bro. He didn't even put her in the trunk. He put her in the front trunk, bro. There's literally no space to do that in there, bro.
Away.
She was cutting to pieces. Yeah, I know that's why he was able to do that. But it's like, bro, to even do it in that method, and like you said, to leave your Tesla there, this nigga was just overconfident like shit.
Leave on tour, and this is manageable. He definitely thought that Celeste running away all the time was going to play to his advantage, as no one would be looking for her. But when it comes to dead bodies decomposing, you don't look for that smell. The smell finds you. The question most fascinating to me, especially when watching through all of his TikTok videos following the proposed date of the alleged murder, is what allowed him to continue functioning normally after the fact. Several interacting psychological mechanisms are relevant here. The first is the reduced guilt and anxiety response associated with elevated psychopathic traits. The internal system that makes violent acts psychologically disabling for most people was, in David's case, already significantly reduced through years of deliberate desensitization. The second is compartmentalization, a defense mechanism in which an individual maintains separate psychological areas that don't interact, allowing normal social functioning to continue in one area while extreme events are contained in another. The third is the role of his persona architecture. David had spent years living between constructed identities, none of which were his actual self. Switching to David the
bro did it like it literally wasn't me. Like he really thought like he really was living his life as somebody else, bro. And just kind of excused his actions as, oh, well, this person did it, not me. Like that's how he kind of rationalized with it.
The artist for a radio interview was not a performance grafted onto a traumatized person. It was, by that point, his default public mode of existence. He was the psychopathic and cold version of himself that night, and switched his persona to David the artist by the following morning. Finally, if the prosecution's characterization of the alleged murder as an act to silence Celeste is accurate, then there was no emotional conflict to suppress. The act achieved its objective. The threat was eliminated. For someone with the psychological profile description.
Oh man. Yo, somebody needs to do a case study on these niggas, on this nigga TikTok, bro. Like, oh man, bro. Man, they gonna be showing videos like these in court, bro. Oh man. This is fucking, yo. Anime community down by 1 million. Like this is like, man.
Grabbed and achieved its objective. The threat was.
Bro had a fucking Fortnite. Like this nigga literally had everything, bro. He had everything, bro. But again, I know like I did learn a lot from this video, like how homeschooling has affected, you know, how certain shit has, you know, gone. But like, damn, bro.
Eliminated. For someone with the psychological profile described in this video, David saw this more as completing a task rather than being horrified at what he'd done. So it wasn't that deep to him. And that's why there were no signs, at least publicly, of breakdown or panic. Now the final two are significantly important to many of you watching. Firstly, was David an actual pedo that would have pursued other underage girls, or was Celeste's age just incidental to timing? The evidence doesn't actually support primary paedophilic orientation as the dominant motivation, as I addressed earlier. However, the pattern of seeking a relationship with someone significantly younger, from an unstable home, and therefore highly susceptible to the power dynamic he preferred, is unlikely to be entirely incidental. The specific age...
What is that nigga chat talking about, bro? Caleb does not have wrist like that. Do you support LGBTQ?
Or dynamic he preferred is unlikely to be entirely incidental. The specific age of Celeste, 11 at first contact, 13 at the alleged start of the physical relationship, may reflect...
I think he do support LGBTQ, but there are bigger fish to fry here, bro.
...opportunity and controllability rather than exclusive attraction to that age group. Whether he would have sought out other minors depends significantly on whether the control and power dynamic, rather than the age itself, was the primary draw. The evidence leans towards him just preferring the control aspect, which suggests that his targets might have included adult women in vulnerable circumstances just as much as minors specifically. In simple terms, I don't believe he cares if it's an adult or a minor, just so as long as he can control them. And the final question, if not caught for this alleged murder, would David have killed again?
Probably, honestly. I think that, I guess this is just speculation, right? But what do y'all think? But I think that somebody else, David would have found himself in a romantic situation with someone else, got connected with them, had a power imbalance with them. They either try to expose him, try to leave him, whatever the case may be, and then he would do it again. You know, there would have to be certain conditions. I don't think he would just go out and just kill somebody random that isn't emotionally tied to him. But like, I think that anybody who, like, not anybody, but certain people who are deeply emotionally tied to him and could, like, you know, that he could have power over, he would do that too, right?
The available
Can we get all this photo? My bad.
A second murder was not inevitable, but the risk profile wasn't low. The alleged murder, if accurately characterized by the prosecution, was carried out to eliminate a specific threat to a specific goal, which was protecting his career. This is different from the profile of a serial killer driven by compulsion or escalating fantasy fulfillment, like Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and the BTK killer. However, the post-alleged murder behavior described in prosecution documents, the methodical dismemberment, the ongoing attempts to destroy evidence, the continued public functioning, is consistent with someone who didn't experience sufficient psychological cost from the act to be deterred from repeating it under similar circumstances. If the career threat had risen again with another person in a position to expose damaging information, the psychological barriers to a similar response would have been lower the second time, not higher. Basically, if the same situation repeated itself with another girl like Celeste, David would just say, "It worked the first time, so I'll do it again." But I don't believe he'd go around his life trying to find people to murder.
Yeah, I don't think that either, bro. Like, you feel me? But again, if the conditions showed it, bro, which it would have realistically, bro, if he got away with murder and his whole like thing is romance and shit like that, bro, this would have happened to another girl eventually, bro. Oddwin, think of that 17 months, bro. Think of that 17 months. W Oddwin in the fucking chat, man.
Forgot about my prime.
So, how do we summarize? David Anthony Burke's trajectory is not the product of a single cause, and it doesn't follow the profile of someone who is always going to commit a violent crime. It follows the profile of someone whose dispositional characteristics were given an extreme developmental environment in which those characteristics were amplified, reinforced, and never corrected. The homeschooling decision at 13 was the rupture, not because it was inherently abusive, because it removed the entire social architecture within which deviant development is normally detected and corrected, and replaced it with 5 years of unstructured internet access and internal elaboration. The resulting internal world, saturated with violent romantic fantasy, deliberately desensitized emotions, and a constructed alter ego who committed murders, was then given a commercial platform that celebrated rather than challenged it. The relationship with Celeste Rivas Hernandez was built on the structural conditions his isolation had created, an online social infrastructure that gave him access to vulnerable people, a power dynamic he had never experienced in any other relational context, and a fantasy framework that had always positioned a romantic partner as someone he would end up killing. What the prosecution alleges is that when that relationship produced a threat to his survival, both professionally and financially, the psychological infrastructure necessary to respond violently was formed, and the psychological barriers that would have made most people unable to act on that response weren't. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was 14 years old. She was reported missing by her family multiple times. She had reached out to the one adult who was supposed to care for her, and was told that she was wanted, loved, and seen, or at least made to feel that way at one point in their relationship. The prosecution alleges that that same person who told her those things ordered the Uber that brought her to his door and stood by as she bled out on the floor of his Hollywood Hills home. The warning signs were there, in his music, in his Discord, in his fantasy constructs, in his own words, in interviews, given freely to journalists who heard them as art. The question this case raises, for parents, for platforms, for the music industry, and for the audiences who stream artists without reading what they're actually saying, is not why nobody saw it. It's why, when it was visible, it was so easy to look away. The case is ongoing, and I plan to cover any major updates.
And there's only going to be more updates as time goes on, bro. So I could definitely see him making another part to this. This was an amazing video.
YouTube channel, The Plug House, and it's a whole bunch of clips from your guys' streams.
Plug House TV. There we go.
Yeah.